Imagine a car that never needs to stop for gas, never plugs into a charger, and never runs out of power. Sound impossible, right? Well, today we're diving into the jaw-dropping story of Maxwell's self-powered car, a machine that reportedly ran nonstop, leaving experts and skeptics completely stunned. Is this the birth of infinite energy on wheels, or just another overhyped illusion? Stick around, because the results will shock you. Before we break down the test results, let's rewind a little. Who is Maxwell, and how did his invention capture the world attention? Maxwell Chikumbutso, a Zimbabwean inventor, has long claimed to develop technologies that bend the very rules of physics. From self-charging gadgets to revolutionary broadcasting systems, he's no stranger to bold ideas. But nothing has drawn more global attention than his self-charging electric car, a vehicle said to run indefinitely without stopping for a recharge. If true, this breakthrough could flip the entire auto industry upside down. Think about it. No charging stations, no range anxiety, and no fossil fuels. Just pure, endless motion. Recently, Maxwell's team put the car through a public trial. The challenge was simple. Let it run nonstop, without any charging cable, refueling, or hidden tricks. Hours passed, then days, and the car kept moving. Witnesses described it as surreal, a vehicle humming along endlessly, defying what we've been taught about energy and mechanics. By the time the demonstration ended, the crowd wasn't just amazed. They were confused. How could this be possible? Now, here's where things get controversial. According to Maxwell, his car uses self-charging energy systems that capture and recycle power in ways conventional science doesn't yet recognize. Critics argue it violates the basic laws of thermodynamics. Supporters, however, insist the results speak for themselves. Is Maxwell unlocking a new frontier of physics, or is this an engineering trick waiting to be debunked? If Maxwell's claims are real, the implications are staggering. Electric vehicles would never need charging stations. The oil industry could face its ultimate collapse. Developing nations could leapfrog energy infrastructure, moving straight into a clean, limitless future. But with stakes this high, skepticism is unavoidable. The auto industry, scientists, and governments will demand hard proof before the world embraces a car that supposedly runs forever. So, is Maxwell's car truly the world's first infinite-range vehicle, or just a story too good to be true? The truth may take time to emerge, but one thing is certain. This invention has forced us all to question the future of transportation and energy itself. As news of Maxwell's demonstration spread, reactions poured in from across the globe. Engineers in Silicon Valley labeled it a black swan, a rare and unpredictable breakthrough that could change the world overnight. Meanwhile, energy analysts whisper about the potential collapse of trillion-dollar industries if the technology proved real. But not everyone was celebrating. Powerful lobbies, from oil companies to major automakers, saw Maxwell's invention as an existential threat. Some even suggested that such a disruptive idea might never reach the public if corporate and political forces had their way. Soon, investigative teams and independent scientists began asking tough questions. Where exactly is the energy coming from? How are the car systems designed? Could this be a form of advanced kinetic recovery, solar integration, or something entirely new? The mystery deepened when Maxwell himself remained guarded about the inner workings. He claimed the design was based on principles not yet recognized by mainstream science. Supporters called it revolutionary. Skeptics called it pseudoscience. But here's the fascinating part. So far, no one's been able to conclusively debunk it. Behind the scenes, whispers grew louder about a quiet battle. Governments wanted to control or acquire the technology. Corporations lobbying to protect their billion-dollar energy markets. Investors lining up, hoping to get an early stake in what could be the biggest breakthrough since electricity itself. And Maxwell? He seemed unfazed. He simply doubled down on his mission, to prove his invention to the world, no matter the cost. The next phase is critical. Maxwell's team has hinted at larger-scale demonstrations. Fleets of self-powered cars, buses, even industrial machines that run without ever stopping. If those trials succeed, the narrative changes completely. We're no longer asking, is it possible? We'll be asking, how soon can the world adopt it? And that question might trigger a technological revolution unlike anything we've ever seen. When engineers finally reviewed the test logs, they noticed something strange. The car's energy output readings didn't match any known system of batteries, fuel cells, or hybrid recovery. There were no visible charging mechanisms, no solar panels, and no external energy source. Yet, the vehicle maintained consistent power output across the trial. Some observers claimed Maxwell's car might be harnessing ambient energy, power drawn from the environment itself. Others speculated about magnetic resonance systems, or even technology similar to Nikola Tesla's long-lost wireless energy concepts. If true, this would suggest Maxwell tapped into a field of science that mainstream researchers abandoned decades ago. Oddly enough, while social media exploded with curiosity, the world's biggest automakers remained strangely quiet. No public statements from Tesla, Toyota, or Volkswagen. No comments from ExxonMobil or Shell, almost as if they were waiting, or perhaps scrambling behind closed doors to assess the threat. But here's what insiders whispered. Maxwell's name had already surfaced in corporate boardrooms, not as a curiosity, but as a potential disruptor. And disruptors, history tells us, are often met with fierce resistance. The press didn't know what to make of it. Some outlets dismissed it as yet another too good to be true invention from Africa, echoing a familiar pattern of skepticism toward innovations that don't emerge from Western labs. Others, however, saw the demonstration footage and couldn't deny what they witnessed, a car that simply didn't stop running. Documentaries began popping up. Investigative journalists traveled to Maxwell's workshop, and quietly, a movement of believers grew, arguing that the mainstream was deliberately trying to bury a once-in-a-century breakthrough. Rumors swirled that Maxwell had already faced pressure to abandon his work. Anonymous sources claimed that investors backed out mysteriously. There were whispers of threats, offers to buy out the technology and shelve forever, and even surveillance of his team. If true, it wouldn't be the first time disruptive technology faced oppression. History is filled with stories of inventors who claimed breakthroughs in free energy, only to vanish into obscurity. The question is, will Maxwell meet the same fate, or will his car force its way into mainstream? For now, the car remains both a beacon of hope and a lightning rod for controversy. Every mile it runs without stopping adds to the mystery. Every unanswered question fuels both wonder and doubt. But the story isn't over. In fact, it's only just beginning. Because Maxwell's next move could decide whether his invention changes the world or disappears into history's shadows. Some of his supporters believed intelligence agencies had already taken interest. After all, if a car could run indefinitely, the same technology might power planes, ships, or even military equipment. For governments, this wasn't just an energy revolution. It was a strategic weapon. Behind closed doors, agencies debated. Should Maxwell's invention be embraced or contained? Meanwhile, whispers of corporate espionage grew louder. Rival tech companies allegedly tried to infiltrate Maxwell's inner circle, offering bribes to engineers, attempting to duplicate his prototypes, or worse, discredit him before his invention could gain momentum. Documents leaked online suggested at least 3 multinational corporations were already testing mysterious propulsion systems that bore striking similarities to Maxwell's design. Had they managed to steal blueprints? Or were they racing to catch up before he took the lead? With the world watching, Maxwell faced an impossible decision. Should he patent the technology and risk it being bought out or locked away? Release it openly, risking chaos, imitation, and exploitation? Or keep it secret, hoping to scale slowly while staying under the radar? Each choice carried enormous consequences. And with every passing day, the pressure mounted. Supporters demanded transparency. Critics demanded proof. And powerful forces demanded control. Yet, amid the chaos, a movement began to grow. People across Africa and even beyond started rallying behind Maxwell. They saw him not just as an inventor, but as a symbol, proof that world-changing innovation doesn't have to come from Silicon Valley, Berlin, or Tokyo. Grassroots campaigns popped up online. Let Maxwell build. Forums buzzed with speculation about the African Tesla, and videos of his nonstop car circulated, racking up millions of views and fueling a sense of unstoppable momentum. The louder the calls became, the harder it would be for any shadowy power to silence him. But movements attract attention, and not always the good kind. The bigger Maxwell's following grew, the more determined his enemies became. And as his car continued to run, hour after hour, day after day, the question no one could ignore anymore was this: how long before the battle for Maxwell's invention erupts into the open? One night, Maxwell's team reported an unusual incident. Their workshop security alarms tripped, yet nothing was stolen. Days later, strange malfunctions began affecting their test equipment. Sudden power surges, corrupted data logs, and unexplained failures. Coincidence? Perhaps. But Maxwell's engineers whispered another possibility. Someone was deliberately interfering. And then came the most chilling moment. During a test run, the car abruptly shut down, not from mechanical fault, but from what appeared to be remote interference. A signal, scrambled across frequencies, had disrupted the car's mysterious power system. If true, it meant someone out there not only understood parts of Maxwell's invention, but also knew how to tamper with it. Meanwhile, international media finally broke its silence. Major outlets ran contrasting headlines. The car that runs forever? Science or scam? African innovator challenges the energy titans. Is this the end of oil? Talk shows debated the phenomenon. Politicians cautiously weighed in. Markets trembled as energy analysts warned investors to watch Maxwell carefully. And while the public was split, one fact remained undeniable. The car kept running. Then, out of nowhere, rival inventors from Europe and Asia stepped forward, claiming they too had developed self-powered vehicles. Yet, none of their prototypes survived open demonstrations, like Maxwell's. Still, the timing was suspicious. Some argued it was an orchestrated distraction, an attempt to drown Maxwell's achievement in a sea of noise. If multiple inventors made the same claims, the public would eventually dismiss them all as gimmicks. Maxwell, however, refused to be silenced. He announced something no one expected: a global tour of nonstop demonstrations. The announcement set the stage for a showdown. Imagine it: a car running endlessly through the streets of Johannesburg, Nairobi, Dubai, Berlin, and New York. If successful, the world would have no choice but confront the reality of his invention. No amount of skepticism or silence could stop it. But this move also painted a giant target on Maxwell's back. Because now, suppression wasn't just an option for his opponents. It was a necessity. As Maxwell's team prepared for the global tour, questions loomed like storm clouds. Who will try to stop him? What lengths will corporations, governments, and secret players go to protect their interests? And most importantly, will the world finally see the truth about a car that runs forever? The countdown to confrontation had begun. The day arrived. Cameras rolled as Maxwell's car began its first non-stop demonstration on the streets of Johannesburg. Crowds lined the roads. Live streams attracted millions of viewers. Every skeptic, every believer, every powerful executive was watching. The car glided through traffic effortlessly, humming along hour after hour. No gas stations, no charging stops, no breakdowns. By the second day, the world was in disbelief. By the third, even the harshest critics fell silent. In New York, as the car crossed Times Square under the glow of neon lights, something extraordinary happened. A group of scientists stepped forward, declaring that Maxwell's invention could no longer be ignored. Independent analysis confirmed the impossible. The vehicle was producing more energy than it consumed. For the first time in history, humanity had witnessed a practical example of infinite-range transportation. But the global tour wasn't without conflict. At one point in Berlin, the car was targeted by saboteurs, its tires slashed, its systems hacked. Yet Maxwell's team had prepared for everything. Within hours, the vehicle was back on the road, and the attempted sabotage only fueled greater public outrage. Corporations could no longer deny what millions had seen with their own eyes. Governments scrambled to negotiate partnerships. And energy giants, once hostile, began quietly reaching out, not to stop Maxwell, but to join him. Months later, Maxwell unveiled his vision. Fleets of self-powered buses in African cities, ships that crossed oceans without fuel, and planes that could fly without a single drop of kerosene. The ripple effect was unstoppable. Oil markets collapsed. Charging infrastructure became obsolete overnight. And for the first time, developing nations no longer needed to import energy. They could generate it from within. Maxwell's invention didn't just revolutionize transportation. It rewrote the balance of global power. Years later, people would look back at that first nonstop car with awe. What began as a bold claim in a small Zimbabwean workshop grew into a movement that forever changed humanity's relationship with energy. Standing on a stage before a roaring crowd, Maxwell looked out and said only one thing: the future was never meant to stop, and neither should we. The car that ran forever had done more than amaze the world. It had freed it